for there was a fellow on a horse looking down at me, a fellow in old-time iron armor, with a helmet the shape of a nail keg.
"Fair sir, will ye just?"
said this fellow. "Will I which?"
"Will ye try a passage of arms for land or lady or for—"
"What?" I said. "Get along back to your circus, or I'll report you." Now what does this man do but fall back a couple of 100 yards and then come rushing at me as hard as he could tear, with his nail keg bent down nearly to his horse's neck and his long spear pointed straight ahead. I saw he meant business, so I was up the tree when he arrived. He allowed that I was his property, the captive of his spear. There was argument on his side, and the bulk of the advantage, so I judged it best to humor him. We fixed up an agreement whereby I was to go with him, and he was not to hurt me. I came down, and we started away. We never came to an asylum, but at the end of an hour we saw a faraway town sleeping in a valley by a winding river, and beyond it, on a hill, a vast grey fortress with towers and turrets. "Bridgeport?" said I, pointing.
"Camelot,"
said he.
My stranger had been showing signs of sleepiness. He caught himself nodding now and said,
I find I can't go on. But come with me. I've got it all written out, and you can read it if you like." In his chamber, he said, "First I kept a journal. Then, by and by, after years, I took the journal and turned it into a book. How long ago that was."
He handed me his manuscript and pointed out the place where I should begin. As I went out at his door, I heard him murmur sleepily,
"Give you good den, fair sir."
I sat down by my fire and examined my treasure. The first part of it, the great bulk of it, was parchment and yellow with age. I turned to the place indicated by my stranger and began to read as follows.
"Camelot," said I to myself. Name of the asylum, likely. It was a soft, reposeful summer landscape, as lovely as a dream and as lonesome as Sunday. Presently, as we approached the town, signs of life began to appear. People with long, coarse, uncombed hair that hung down over their faces and made them look like animals fetched out their families to gape at me, but nobody ever noticed that other fellow, except to make him humble salutation. In the town were some substantial, windowless houses of stone scattered among a wilderness of thatched cabins, and through the muck and swine and naked brats and joyous dogs and shabby huts we followed, climbing, always climbing, till at last we gained the breezy height where the huge castle stood. Then the great gates were flung open, the drawbridge was lowered, and we soon found ourselves in a great paved court, with towers and turrets stretching up into the blue air on all the four sides. The moment I got a chance, I slipped aside and touched an ancient, common-looking man on the shoulder and said, "Friend, do me a kindness. Do you belong to the asylum, or are you just on a visit or something?" He looked me over, stupidly, and said, "Marry, fair sir, meseemeth—" "That will do," I said. I moved away, keeping an eye out for any chance passenger in his right mind. I judged I had found one presently. This was a boy in shrimp-colored tights that made him look like a forked carrot. The rest of his gear was blue silk, and a plumed satin cap tilted complacently over his ear. He said he had come for me, and informed me that he was a page. "Go along," I said. "You ain't more than a paragraph. Come, my boy. I am a stranger and friendless. Be honest and honorable with me. Are you in your right mind?" He said he was. "Are these other people in their right minds?" He said they were. "And this isn't a place where they cure crazy people?" He said it wasn't. "Well, then," I said, "now tell me honest and true, where am I?" "In King Arthur's court." I waited a minute to let that idea shudder its way home, and then said, "And according to your notions, what year is it now?" 528, 19th of June. I felt a sinking at the heart, and muttered, "I shall never see my friends again." Never and ever again. I didn't know why. Something in me seemed to believe him. But my reason straightway began to clamor. That was natural. I didn't know how to go about satisfying it, but all of a sudden I stumbled on the very thing. I knew that the only total eclipse of the sun in the first half of the 6th century occurred on the 21st of June, A.D. 528 O.S., and began at 3 minutes after 12 noon. I also knew that no total eclipse of the sun was due in what to me was the present year, i.e. 1879. So, being a practical Connecticut man, I now shoved this whole problem clear out of my mind till its appointed day and hour should come, in order that I might turn all my attention to the circumstances of the present moment, and be ready to make the most out of them. One thing at a time is my motto, and just play that thing for all it is worth, even if it's only 2 pair and a jack. I made my mind up to 2 things. If it was still the 19th century, and I was among lunatics and couldn't get away, I would presently boss that asylum or know the reason why. If, on the other hand, it really was the 6th century, I would boss the whole country inside of 3 months, for I judged I would have the start of the best educated man in the kingdom by a matter of 1,300 years and upward. I'm not a man to waste time after my mind's made up, and there's work on hand. So I said to the page, "Now, Clarence, my boy, if that might happen to be your name, I'll get you to post me up a little if you don't mind. What is the name of that apparition that brought me here?" "My master and thine? That is Sir Kay the Seneschal." The page said, further, that dinner was about ended in the great hall by this time, and that as soon as the sociability and the heavy drinking should begin, Sir Kay would have me in and brag about his exploit in capturing me, and would probably exaggerate the facts a little, but it wouldn't be good form for me to correct him, and not over-safe either, and when I was done being exhibited, then ho for the dungeon. I thanked him. I couldn't do less, and about this time a lackey came to say I was wanted. So Clarence led me in and took me off to one side and sat down by me. Well, it was an immense place, so lofty that the banners depending from the arched beams and girders away up there floated in a sort of twilight. There was a stone-railed gallery at each end, high up, with musicians in the one, and women clothed in stunning colors in the other. There was a fireplace big enough to camp in, and along the walls stood men-at-arms, rigid as statues. That is what they looked like. In the middle was an oaken table which they called the Table Round. It was as large as a circus ring, and around it sat a great company of men dressed in such various and splendid colors that it hurt one's eyes to look at them. Mainly they were drinking, from entire ox horns, but a few were still gnawing beef bones. There was about an average of 2 dogs to 1 man, and these sat in expectant attitudes till a spent bone was flung to them, and then there ensued a dog-fight, a chaos of plunging heads and bodies and flashing tails, of howlings and barkings. The men rose sometimes to observe it the better and bet on it, and the ladies and the musicians stretched themselves out over their balusters with the same object, and all broke into delighted ejaculations from time to time. As a rule, these people were gracious and courtly, I mean in a dog-fightless interval, telling lies of the stateliest pattern with a most gentle and winning naivety, and ready to listen to anybody else's lie and believe it, too. They dealt in tales of blood and suffering with a guileless relish that made me almost forget to shudder. I was not the only prisoner present. There were 20 or more, many of them maimed, hacked in a frightful way, and their hair, their faces, their clothing were caked with black and stiffened drenchings of blood. Yet you never heard them groan or complain. The thought was forced upon me. The rascals! They have served other people so in their day. It being their own turn now, they were not expecting any better treatment than this. Mainly, the round table talk was monologues, narrative accounts of the adventures in which these prisoners were captured, and their friends and backers killed and stripped of their steeds and armor. As a general thing, these murderous adventures were not forays undertaken to settle disputes. No, as a rule, they were simply duels between strangers. Many a time I had seen a couple of boys, strangers, meet by chance.